Also 1989 hatte ich eine Schilddrüsen-OP gehabt.
And I want you to know that if we talk about dose and potency selection, there's always fighting between the homeopaths, you know, and there's always has been such thing. It always was between high potency prescribers and low potency prescribers. However, what we should do is thinking there's no doubt that everyone, high and low potency prescribers, can do good work and can have success. But I want you to be able to prescribe with all of it. And then you have a choice for your patients, which is based not on just what you want to do, but what really is good for the patient, and still according to the organon, still based on our principles. That's for me the most important. We don't have to get in a fight. I must say, with all these years, over all these years in my own practice, it is too bad. I mean, I loved Hahnemann. It's too bad that I really not always kind of believed or did what he was doing, literally. And later I did it, and then I always was saying to myself, he really was right. You know, I can't believe that for whatever reason I didn't do that right away. Or obviously the 5th edition prescribing, I didn't know about it until I had to, I don't know how I discovered it. That for me was too bad it didn't come earlier than whatever, 10, 15 years ago. With the LM prescribing, the 6th edition, I was always very quickly aware of it. So let's go on to the slide number 21. Standing as homeopaths, you yourself, where you are standing as a prescriber. And mind you, I say again, there's no such thing as this is better than the other things, or maybe there is, but it doesn't mean, like I said, you cannot have success if you're still here in the 4th edition, or you are now in the 6th edition. And many great homeopaths that I admire very much of the past, like Margaret Tyler, you know, Wright, Mrs. Wright, you know, all of those were great homeopaths and were really 4th edition prescribers. And they did very well, but they did it correctly. So, and by the way, that's what we do to the people. If you ask now throughout the world, to the patients themselves, you always hear, I know I have to get worse before I get better. That comes from here. In other words, they say to you, I know I have to have a similar aggravation and then I will get better. No, that is not so. This is the whole point. This is not so. And I think this has become very important for me in the kind of epidemics that we have to deal with. You know, we might think that Hahnemann had to deal with many sensitive patients, but we are dealing with far more sensitive patients. And if I think about one class, it's the autistic children. Autistic children with a primitive, archaic ego are very sensitive in every way. Okay, so we talk about the mystical participation. In fact, I'll show you something. There is a little video, remember this little thing. I'm going to show you once a sonogram that they did as a test. Just as a test to show what Jung called the mystical participation. In other words, where whatever happens to the mother while she carries a child, so whatever happens to the mother emotionally wise while she carries the child, that particular feeling, especially when it's a strong emotional event, long lasting, even the first thought about being pregnant, good or bad, rejection or welcoming, makes a tremendous impact on the fetus, the unborn fetus. So that becomes important to realize this, that we as homeopaths also must go back to the intrauterine story for sure. And very often with these autistic children, it is very difficult to often get the real picture, that we really are, in a very gentle way we must do this, that we have to be careful that we don't shock the mother. The mothers feel already guilty enough, you know, that we don't want to do that, but we have to ask anyway, this first thing. Now you will see on this little sonogram how they imitated a fight between two parents, and at the same time they took the sonogram, see what happened to the baby, and let it roll if you have it. See the baby? Well, you might not hear it. You hear them screaming, and you see the baby reacting to the screams. It's too bad you don't hear the screams of the thing. You can put it once again. Do you put your, yeah, put it. You see when they start fighting, the reactions? The reactions. So, and what they say, in Italian, doesn't matter now, what they say, be careful, you know, a newborn's life is already 9 months' life, not 1 day. Okay, life starts at the conception, and I would even say before the conception. Why I brought this up, because I can tell you right away, having dealt with so many autistic children, that for sure I had to be carefully potency selection-wise, and again, potency and dose-wise. And dose-wise. In fact, go on to slide 24. And I mean, I'm going to put the accent on dose. Okay, and that's why many changes have happened with me in the selection of dose and potency, but especially dose is dealing with these children. And then, of course, at that same point, I saw how good it was for the adults, equally myself included, if I had something. You clearly see here what he writes, and this is important for us to really remember. Aphorism 275, the correctness, he says, of a medicine for a given case of disease depends not only on its accurate homeopathic selection, that's called the simillimum, you know, the name of the remedy, basically, but also on the correct size, and here is, or rather smallness, and I put the accent on it, or rather smallness of the dose. Keep in mind, when people confuse this, when they talk about potency or size of the dose, people confuse this, and it's a little bit Hahnemann's fault, because if he writes it in the same breath, he talks about dose and potency, but if you read the whole thing, you know exactly what he means. Okay? You know when he needs the dose, that is the amount, versus the potency, the strength. Make sure that we know, we make attention. So here he says, a medicine given in 2 large doses, and here I put the accent on it, I underlined it, although completely homeopathic to the case. Remember, when people say it doesn't matter how much you give, because the remedy is right, he says here, it's completely homeopathic to the case. In other words, it is an arsenicum person and he got arsenicum. It is a lachesis person and she got lachesis. Or does he say that a large given in 2 large doses and in itself of a beneficial nature, it will still harm the patient by its quantity and unnecessarily strong action on the vital force?